Virtual reality has been promising new and bigger adventures for years. Dream trips from the comforts of our homes, exciting fun, and thrills galore. But what is the reality of virtual reality? Our topic on Shift today. In 2018, the global VR revenue was 3.2 billion euros. Peanuts compared to gaming, which made 120 billion last year. Still, VR technology is making giant strides. There are new headsets, new software and new games, but the stuff is only for hardcore gamers and couch potatoes, right? Wrong. You can also use VR to work up a sweat. By boxing, for example. Slip on the headset and go. VR boxing is perfect for me. If I get a black eye here, I don't get in trouble with my makeup artist.
Virtual reality boxing training. And VR big fights. They can be just as hard as matches with real opponents, but without running the risk of injury. More and more sports are showing up in VR. At the VR Institute of Health and Exercise, scientists from San Francisco State University are studying the health impact of VR sports. They measure a range of physical functions and calculate how many calories per minute using a given game burns. So far, they've tested over 50 VR applications with different headsets to determine their effects. An Omni treadmill with a VR headset can definitely get players working up a sweat and burning calories. Just like the VR music application Electronauts, where users can become DJs. You can make your own music. And how easy is it to forget you're exercising when you're dancing?
Dancing at a virtual festival to my own music, pretty sweet. I don't need anyone else for that. But there are times when I'd like to share the experience with others. An all too rare option in VR. Besides, the headsets are often clunky, the cables get in the way, and many of the graphics still look pixelated. For VR to really work, the software needs to respond to my actions immediately. And right now, there's often a lag. An amusement park north of Nuremberg is offering VR bumper cars. I went there for a test drive and to find out what technology goes into making the perfect VR experience.
Okay, let's dive in. In VR, looks count. Resolution and image quality are crucial when it comes to graphics, as is field of vision. The wider the field, the more intense the experience. Another decisive factor is how well your real movements are reproduced.
Head tracking is really important, so how you move your head and whether that matches your position and view in the virtual world.
These ball-shaped sensors are used in optical tracking. The sensors reflect infrared light in the dark, which is picked up by cameras. It's just one of the tracking methods the Fraunhofer Institute is developing. For the VR bumper cars, the driver and car are fitted with 14 sensors, and the user's position is tracked by 32 infrared cameras. The aim is to minimize latency, the delay between real-life action and virtual representation.
Yes, yes!
It has to feel good. My real movement has to be in sync with what I see. If it isn't, you get a kind of motion sickness, or virtual reality sickness. You feel nauseous.
Developers are also working on adding more senses to the virtual reality experience, like feeling wind, or taste, and smell. That would make the experience more authentic. And of course, multi-user apps liven up virtual surroundings.
I have to admit, I was pretty terrified driving a bumper car blind, but it was super fun. Really one of my best VR experiences ever, and with no lag. Every movement was perfectly reproduced in the VR world without any delay. I often get motion sickness in VR, but not this time. Back to the serious world of science. Researchers want to know how the brain reacts to VR. What happens exactly when I move in virtual reality surroundings? Does my sense of direction work normally, for instance?
Our brains process experiences from the real world, or from virtual ones, through our senses. When we physically explore a given surrounding, the hippocampus becomes activated, as this is the part of our brain that perceives space. In virtual reality, we only see space.
Vision is our strongest sense, and a large part of our brain is dedicated to image processing. So often, it is enough to rely on visuals alone to create a surrounding. But everyone knows there's more to genuine experience. Our brain assembles different inputs from our senses to create the whole reality.
When it comes to brain activity, studies with rats showed that when the rats were put in basic VR simulations, activity in the hippocampus reduced by around 60%. The better the VR experience, the more it generates neural firing patterns that resemble real-world brain activation.
In a later trial, the rats were placed on a spherical treadmill, which meant they had to move and balance. As a result, the rats' brains showed similar neural representation of space in the virtual and real world. We use a lot of sensory clues to navigate. Have a look.
Studies show that VR needs to include other senses, not just optics. If sound, taste and touch are missing from the VR experience, the illusion is weakened. Even so, the brain treats real life and VR simulation similarly.
The patterns of how the brain responds are similar. Our brain will process fear in a similar way, whether I'm in real life or a VR setting.
A similar psychological response is triggered. Heart rate increases, our skin's conductivity changes, hormones are secreted, and the reward center is activated. We can be scared or rewarded, in VR and in real life.
The porn industry is often quick to use new technologies, and VR is no exception. The porn company Naughty America has registered over 20 million downloads from its VR range since mid-2018. The gaming platform Steam also does a large part of its business with VR porn offerings. But what is virtual sex like? A tester reports.
I'm sitting in a living room, like I actually am. And I feel as if I were actually inside the film, like a part of it. Whoa. The girl sitting on me right now, she's right here.
Could virtual sex be the next sexual revolution? How close should we be getting with technology? Futurologist and internet pioneer Brian Schuster foresees a time when we will become so united with the tech that there will be a paradigm shift he calls sexual singularity.
The sexual singularity is where people prefer networked sex. They prefer to be sexually gratified over a network to being sexually gratified in real life.
Our VR sex tester does not share this view. He was underwhelmed by the experience.
You are a part of the action, and that's incredible. But then again, you're also not. You're moving to touch something with your eyes closed, but there's nothing there. What's really missing is real-life emotions.
You just can't really feel it. Some developers are working hard to make the experience more real, but so far it seems VR doesn't come close. But VR goggles are great when it comes to traveling. The last time I went on vacation, I explored my destination first with this model. Strictly speaking, it was a 360-degree panoramic view and not VR, which is usually more interactive. The tourism industry has shown great interest in the technology. Tour operators in the US state of Nevada have tested VR travel advertising with success.
Slip on a VR headset and you can be off to faraway lands. You can instantly be in Nevada. Doesn't matter where you were before. There There are even apps with which you can book the matching flights from the comfort of your VR setting. A juicy offer.
Man, makes me want to do that trip now.
It was amazing. I actually thought I was underwater at one point.
Those who hesitate to travel can experience the world virtually. Paris's Jardin d'Acclimatation Park hosts an installation called Wild Immersion. It brings visitors even closer to the wild animals than African safaris, without disturbing real animals in their natural habitat.
We really want to use new technologies so that we can be teleported to be among the animals, to be in the midst of this wildlife, in the ocean with chimpanzees, zebras, and be amazed.
The visitors' curiosity is aroused, and they learn by seeing and being there. This is another potential application of VR, as is Deutsche Welle's 360-degree app. It takes viewers all around the German UNESCO World Heritage sites with virtual tours.
I can travel to various places virtually and even interact with them. That's an important feature, interacting. That enhances the immersion in this virtual reality. If I can interact a bit, I've got something I can do and not just be a spectator.
What are your thoughts on VR? When is it amazing? And when could you do without? Personally, I couldn't get enough of the bumper cars. But overall, the technology still has a long way to go. The headsets need to be made lighter, the cables are a nuisance, and the technology is still too expensive. There are simple VR sets for your smartphone, which cost only €1, but if you want something decent, the headset alone costs €199. What do you think? Join our discussion on Facebook and on our new YouTube channel. You'll also find explainers there, information on the latest tech topics, gadgets, and my full report on the VR bumper car. Take care and see you next week.